Welcome everyone to the Senior Living 411 series. Tonight's topic is around COVID-19. It's on the 411 on surviving COVID-19. For most people, when the conversation around COVID-19 starts, one of the first comments is, do you even know anybody who has it? Most people you speak to, myself included, do not. Outside of what you see on the news and out of all my family and friends, there have been no cases. So one day while in Facebook, I came across a testimony shared by one of my Facebook friends detailing her brother's experience with COVID-19. I've seen a lot of videos and read a lot of stories around this topic. However, this was one of the most detailed recounts of the experience with COVID that I've heard thus far. I immediately felt a need to share his story. I reached out to her and asked her if her brother would be willing to allow me to interview him on this show. And he said yes. This video has been pre-recorded, so join me as I share my screen and interview our special guest, Richard. All right, so Richard, thank you for agreeing to do this important interview with me. Just before we really get into the whole story, can you share with us your age and your overall lifestyle?
Sure. I'm 52 years old. I have a very active lifestyle, from hiking, climbing, boating, kayaking, skiing, mountain biking. I stay quite fit. So
the cardio related things as well, hiking and
yeah.
all that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
great. And did you have any pre-existing health conditions like asthma or any heart concerns?
I do. Prior to this, I had asthma. I hadn't had an asthma attack or needed an inhaler for over 7 years.
Oh, wow.
So up until a month ago, I've been on inhalers every day.
Right. Wow. Okay, and mask or no mask? Well, there's a whole debate on people who believe in wearing masks or not wearing masks.
Definitely a mask.
Definitely a mask. Okay.
Yeah.
And would you say overall you've obeyed, the social distancing protocol and maintained bubble and whatnot?
Yeah. I've kept, talking to friends on the phone, texting. Don't really have anybody coming over except for my close knit family and partner. That's about it.
Right. And I know you're out in BC. What are the rules there? Is it similar to Ontario?
I don't know the rules in Ontario, so
Yeah.
I can't tell you if they're similar. But yeah, it's 6 feet apart, social distancing.
Mandatory masks indoors.
Mandatory mask in all retail space or restaurants, or walking into restaurants and out of restaurants. Yeah, it's pretty.
So it's the same. It's the same as what we have here. Can you share with me the days leading up to you going to the hospital emergency room?
Hard for me to remember, but yes, I can. I believe I was out and about, normal. Everything was fine. I was being active. There was no signs. I didn't get any fever. I didn't get any cough. What I got was pain. I got a lot of pain. All my joints hurt, and not like your flu type of soreness. It was actual pain where I couldn't get comfortable. So I went into the hospital. The day before I went into the hospital, I had headaches, and I don't normally get headaches, so which was strange, and I just let it go. But then the following day, I had body pains and aches everywhere. And that's what sent me to the hospital.
So just to be clear, up until that point, you still had no fevers, none of the...
I didn't have a single fever throughout this whole entire process.
Okay.
I didn't have a lot of the questions that they asked me, do I have a fever, diarrhea, or anything like that? I didn't have any of that. All I had was breathing issues.
Okay, so that was like your first sign, really, the aches and the breathing issues then.
Yeah.
Okay. And when they said they were going to do a COVID test, what I guess, can you take me through, like, what are the thoughts going through your mind? Because that's something that I know it's not a comfortable experience to have the test done, but also, were you afraid at that point or thinking, no, couldn't be?
Mhm. It was actually my second test. Um, I had a test back in March, because I had uh, I think it was sorry. So one of the things I do have is brain fog from
Okay.
COVID. The In March I had gone in to the doctor because I felt tightness on my chest.
Mhm.
So they gave me right away a test, and it
Right.
was negative. So I knew what to expect when they asked me if I wanted to do a test again. I said, "Yeah, that's fine." Um, and I said, "I'd rather a test than not a test because I don't think the doctor was telling me that I probably have the flu." And I was thinking, well, this is not the flu. I've had the flu before. I can guarantee you that these pains are not from the flu. So it'd be great to get a test. And so they administered the test. And I don't see anything wrong with having a test. It doesn't really hurt, as what a lot of people think it does. So they gave me the test, and I came home after that. And they gave me some painkillers too for all the pain that I was experiencing. And then it was the following day I got the results back, um, and I was positive. So
And when you received the results, was it in person or were you on the phone when you received the results or on the
the
computer? Sorry?
results, the results came via phone call,
Mhm.
um, and at which point I wasn't surprised because I wasn't feeling any better. I was actually feeling a little bit worse. Um, and yeah, so
And at that point, did the other members of your household, if you live with anyone, have to get tested as well?
I had
Or,
a roommate, like I rent out a room, who she had moved in on the 1st of November. And now I think we're at the 9th or 10th of November.
right,
And just get this positive, and they're telling me that she has to isolate from me. So, um, which is kind of um, she's been a good sport throughout the whole entire thing because she's been in lockup longer than I have. So, yeah.
and so what was the initial reaction that, your family, the people closest to you had when you told them that you tested positive?
I would say a little bit of a panic.
Mhm.
My family's back east where it's pretty heavily happening, like back in Ontario and in Quebec.
Yeah,
Um, so there was a good scare there for a few weeks for them. They were definitely, I, I was getting phone calls 2 or 3 times a day from every one of my family. So yeah,
I can
just make
imagine.
sure. Yeah.
I know one of the things a lot of people they're saying are afraid to tell people that they've been positive. There's a fear of a stigma that some people have of saying, this has happened. And I think it's because it's something that's happening worldwide, but it does affect people mentally. They don't want that stigma attached to them. So they stay clear of the conversation.
Yeah. What I think it's the unknown. For me, I thought, well, I don't really want to tell anybody. I don't want anybody to know. I don't want to be treated any differently. I don't want to be, when I'm cured, I don't want people to think, oh, I may still get it from him.
Yeah.
Uh, but it's been the complete opposite. Um, Everyone's like, oh, you've had it? Okay, great. Like I don't feel
Yeah.
scared around you now. And that was a relief because I thought it would shun people away.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah,
So people have been supportive, which is good to hear, as we should
yeah,
be, as we
yeah.
should. You mentioned being in and out of the hospital several times. I can't recall, but how many times, how many hospital visits? What was your longest stay? Um,
They were all short because the hospital doesn't want you there.
oh,
Um, Yeah,
Okay.
they want the hospitals for the really, really, really bad cases.
Okay.
Um, Plus, I'm infected. They don't want me in there if I can deal with it at home. I was there 5 times, three ambulance
Wow.
runs, because I wasn't able to drive for those ones. They were in the middle of the night. Um, uh, and then one trip all the way to Vancouver from Squamish because I had to go for a CAT scan of my lungs. They were afraid of blood clotting in my lungs, so that showed negative, which was great.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They took every precautionary because my first emergency trip, even my oxygen levels were low.
Yeah.
Uh, but ever since then, it's been fine. It's been 100% right across the
Right.
board.
That's
Yeah.
good to hear. There's a part of your story where it really touched me, and you stated, "I've spent the last 3 weeks trying to breathe."
Yeah.
We all know how important oxygen is, and I cannot begin
Yeah.
to imagine what that feels like.
Yeah.
Can you elaborate? Is it, like being underwater and holding your breath, waiting to come back?
Uh, I wouldn't say being underwater because underwater you can't breathe.
Yeah.
I can breathe, but it didn't feel like I was getting any breath.
Mm. Oh,
Um, it's even right now, my chest feels like there's straps wrapped around it, so that I can't get a full breath. Um, you know, it's not a pleasant thing, and even at night, when you go to sleep and you lie down, it becomes worse. So yeah, breathing was difficult for sure. And then it felt like because my heart rate would drop so low, it felt like I was stopping breathing, um, and I was still awake. So it was kind of scary. So I'd have to sit up every time. But then I found out that because a normal heart rate is between 60 and 80,
okay.
uh, mine when I'm lying down is around 42.
Hmm.
Uh, my normal, just sitting around doing nothing, is about 54. So, because I'm healthy, I found out it's not because I'm sick, it's because I'm healthy. Uh,
Okay.
and I didn't know that. So I
Yeah.
was kind of worried about that. There's something that call this is anxiety. I never had anxiety before this.
Mm.
But what you think is going on and what is actually happening is stressful. So
Of
yeah.
course,
And you have
definitely.
nobody to talk to in person other than you know um, the emergency people that I'd be with, right?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you mentioned that, when your heart rate being at 42, it's amazing the number of alarms that go off when your heart rate drops below normal. So that
Yeah.
must be a combination of that and anxiety because you're like, oh, okay, what's gonna happen now?
Yeah.
It's unknown.
I hadn't slept in 2 days, and I had to go to the hospital again. So I went to the hospital again, and they hooked me up on heart monitors, and they turned off the lights and closed the room at the door and said, just try and go to sleep. And every time I tried to go to sleep, the alarm would go off because my heart rate would drop below where they have it. So they'd come in and change that. And then I'd try and go to sleep again and it would drop again below even that monitor. And eventually they figured it out at 42 is where I rest at.
Baseline,
So
so to speak. Yeah.
they weren't
So
expecting it.
did you have to sleep more at like an inclined position as opposed to flat
Yeah. Yeah.
because of the stiffness? I'm thinking, 'cause I know when you have a cold.
It wasn't just the breathing. My sinuses were
Yeah.
the sinus fluids were very stringy,
Yeah.
which became very difficult because I know it's kind of gross to talk about, but it'd be at the back of my throat, hanging from my sinuses down to into my chest, and when you lie down, you can feel it there.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it kind of uh, made things even more worse. So
You're
yeah,
probably always trying to like kind of hawk to get it out of there.
yeah, clear my
Well,
throat.
right?
It wouldn't go anywhere. It's
Yeah.
as stiff as an elastic band almost. So yeah.
And in your written testimony, you shared, I counted it, about 14 key points that
Yeah.
summarize what this has been like. Do you have that in front of you, or can you just run us through that?
What I can tell you why I put key points in there is a lot of people don't enjoy reading too much nowadays. They prefer pictures and they've got short attention span. So I wanted to show people really briefly what what was involved in the entire experience, and
Right.
you know, how many trips to the hospital, how many ambulance drivers took me back and forth, how many doctors and nurses were involved. And I was very conservative with those numbers because it was hard for me to even count for the amount of people that just kept coming in and out, the phone calls that they had to make outside the hospital to other hospitals. It just there was so much going on for me, and I was I still am worried that, you know, if this pandemic gets out of hand, which it's starting to again, there's going to be thousands and thousands of people like me. And if you look at what was involved just to take care of me, and I wasn't considered a so-called serious case. I didn't required to stay overnight. We don't have the capability to help everybody, and some
Mm.
really tough choices would have to be made.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
and
That's so true.
yeah, and when I was in the hospital, one of the nurses and a couple doctors told me that the best. I was curious about, you know, what has happened over the last few months with them. I was asking questions, and they said the best thing that I could do is to tell people. And I thought about it for a while, and I wasn't going to. And I saw so many people online, you know, the anti-maskers, the people that just are coming up with theories, and the your Facebook scientists,
Yeah.
your
Yeah. Yeah.
it was kind of getting on my nerves because everybody who and these are people that I know, everybody that I know can't relate to this because they don't know anybody. So then I thought, well, if I put a face to it,
Hmm.
they might think differently. And that was the whole purpose of that post that I did, um, just to show people that, you know, it's real.
Yeah.
Because where we live in the second phase, but the first phase, we didn't have very many
Hmm.
cases here
Hmm.
at all.
Hmm.
We were told to do all these things, and yet even through the first phase there was nothing happening here. But
Right.
now that we're in the second phase, it's definitely here. It's definitely around everybody here.
Hmm.
So
I think the
yeah,
difference in phase two is the first phase we saw it mostly attacking seniors in communal settings. So, you know, a group of them in
yep.
long-term retirement, but this phase is different. It's has no
Yeah.
boundaries, so to speak. So
No,
I was
it doesn't.
watching, go ahead.
We've locked up the senior, right? So they're
Mhm.
safe
Yes,
to some
so
degree.
to
I mean,
speak. Yes.
they, so to speak, right? It's the people like myself and younger kids, and even in babies are all being infected now,
Yeah.
and to all different degrees, right? Where people like myself, you hear about because told people,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
there's so many people that you don't hear about, who also don't even go to the hospital, who don't even get a test, who are at home just dealing with it,
Yeah.
and those numbers are accounted for. And like myself, I didn't want to go to the hospital. When I got tested positive, I got a phone call every day from nurse, the nurses seeing how I am, and every single time they said to me, if you feel any issues, don't hesitate, go to the hospital.
Right.
um, I should have I should have listened to it a few times because I let it drag out,
Yeah.
hoping that it would calm down, but it didn't calm down.
Mm,
So and I go to the hospital for it to calm down. So
right. Were
yeah.
you ever on a ventilator at all or no?
No,
No.
no,
Okay.
no.
Okay.
They gave me my inhalers with steroids. They gave me a few different pills for that, and thankfully I wasn't on a
Yeah.
ventilator.
Thank God. Yeah. There's a part where you mentioned in your list 2 weeks of being completely alone and scared of falling asleep and not waking up. I think that's where it really touched me. What
Yeah.
what kind of mindset did you have to put yourself in to keep your spirits up and keep you going?
When I told, I literally only told my mother, and within a few hours, all my siblings were contacting me. And then after that, friends were calling, just to see what I was doing,
Mhm.
and I'd had to explain to them that, where I'm at. And after that, the amount of outpouring that came kept me busy and kept my spirits up, even though I was alone. I think my sister said it. I was never alone. I was only by myself.
Ah,
So
good way to put it. So you
yeah.
still had that
Uh,
community around you of family and friends that you weren't really.
Friends and family who've never video conferenced with me before have had all started doing it,
Yeah.
just so my face and see what I'm going through, right? Which was nice because I mean, I didn't look in good shape by any means, but yeah, it was it was good to have that support.
Yeah. If there is a positive side to it, which really is hard to say, but I would say that we are lucky to be in such a time as this when we do have the technology able to connect. Because if you'd gone back 20 years, snail mail, you'd be writing people. We didn't
Yeah,
have, video conferencing and Zooms and even text messaging. I don't think, did we have 20? No, we didn't have text messaging 20 years ago.
we
So
had
definitely
pagers.
technology, pictures, right? Yeah, so
No, no,
technology.
pagers.
Oh, pager, that's what it was, right? You'd have to page, that's right. You could
Yeah,
say hello on a pager. I think you put certain numbers and you flip it upside down. But
yeah,
in all honesty, we didn't. So technology is a blessing in this incident, in this
yeah.
case, that we have that to
It
still
is and it
communicate.
isn't because it is for communication amongst friends and family. But as far as propaganda, it's terrible.
Yeah, no, and then
News era
anyway,
is true, and
this, yeah,
so yeah.
true. You mentioned that you were not seeking sympathy, which is quite humble of you. Um, you know, what do you hope is your biggest, if you had one takeaway from this, what do you hope is your biggest takeaway from those hearing your story, especially going into the Christmas season when people are more prone to disobey the rules and regulations that have been put into place?
That's a difficult one. I mean, everybody wants to see their family, right? We look forward all year to seeing our family. I spent the last 5 weeks not seeing my kids,
Mhm.
which is the longest I've ever gone without seeing them.
Right.
Um, that was difficult because they're my support too, right? Um, the one thing I would take away from this or give it as advice is be patient. Um, you don't know what the person next to you is going through.
Mm.
Um, and be aware that you do have an effect on others. Um, this will be over soon.
Mhm.
We've gone through so many other diseases or viruses in the past that have all said they're going to kill us all, and we've made it through it. There's a lot of people who aren't patient, um, and I get it. We all want to live our own lives, but sometimes you just have to batten down the hatch and sit there until something's over, and then you can go back to living again, normal life. We will get back to that. It may not be the exact same. It may be a little bit better. So until that happens, just be patient.
Yeah, that's what I've had to say to my teenage daughter who, wants to go back in school. And I'm like, no, you're staying home. And it's like, listen, you just need to really be patient right now until we get past this. We just gotta, because for me, my biggest fear is if my child were to get it, how does a parent stay away from being with their child? That's like, you want to take it yourself, almost a disease yourself, and say, you know what, give it to me, let me take it, let me bear that burden for you. So I definitely agree with the patients. As far as you, on a scale of, when I like using scales, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, how are you feeling right now?
Not a good day. So I have good days and bad days. Today I feel like a 6.
Mm.
Yesterday I was probably a 7. I don't think I've gone beyond a 7, maybe 7.5. But today's definitely a 6. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Were you ever able to trace or think back on how or where you may have contracted COVID?
No. So the contact tracer could not figure it out
Mm-hmm.
between
Right.
between me and the contact we're stuck at. So came
Mm-hmm.
to a quick death. So.
Yeah. My next question may be a little bit difficult to answer. I'm just going to ask it though. There's been a lot of talk and probably some propaganda that once you get corona, you're immune.
Mm-hmm.
However, I've also heard of people who've had it more than once.
Yeah.
So with that being said, are you an advocate for the vaccine? Because lots of talk around the vaccine as well. What are your opinions on that? Having had it, do you think you'll get it?
Having had it, having experienced what I just went through, I wouldn't wish that on anybody.
Mhm.
I did a lot of meditation while
Mm.
it was going on to just to keep me calm. And I'm not one to meditate, so
Right.
it goes to show you what I did to get through this. Hmm. Sorry, you have to ask me that a question again.
Okay. The summary
One
of
of
the
the
question
bonuses
is,
of this COVID is I keep forgetting things. So
yeah, no, that's perfectly fine. Are you planning on getting the vaccine?
yes, yes, I definitely am, because I would, one, it scares the hell out of me. 2, not the vaccine. Let's make that straight.
Yeah.
Having what I just went through, knowing what I just went through, scares the hell out of me.
Mm.
Also, the unknown of if I were to get it again,
Mm.
would it be worse or would it be easier?
Mm.
I don't ever want to try that.
Yeah,
That's not a gamble I would ever go through.
I
Uh,
understand that.
yeah.
Definitely. Um, do you have any other, I know you gave some great advice already. Do you have any closing words for our listeners? Anything that you haven't shared that you want to put in there for our listeners to hear and to know?
Um, be patient. This too shall pass.
Yeah, be patient, this too shall pass. And this is more of a lighter side of my questioning. I just threw it in there. And I think you probably should do this. I know I think you're a photographer. So if you were to write a book
Hmm.
about this experience, what would you call it?
I thought about that, and the only thing that comes to my mind is breathless.
Breathless. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
You think you may decide to pen this experience?
I'm sorry.
Might you decide to actually pen this experience and make it a story?
Um, I don't think so. That's not my style. Yeah, it's very rare that I actually would post what I did post that caught so
Yes.
many people's attention. I usually just post pictures and not
Yeah.
a lot of writing with the pictures. So
Yeah.
yeah,
You're more of a person of imagery.
yeah.
Uh, okay. Well, again, I want you to thank you for saying yes, because I guess so often in life, a lot of people wouldn't have even asked a complete stranger to interview them because they're afraid of a no. But I always tell my daughter, a yes has never made anybody just wither away and die. So
Yeah.
I thank you for saying yes. I thank you for sharing. And as I said to you yesterday when we spoke briefly, I think if we touch even one person and make a difference,
Yeah.
then we have done our job.
Yeah.
So definitely, thank you. And just gonna stop recording right now. Okay, so once again, thank you. There are a few key points that I did want to highlight about this interview. Richard chose not to share the list that he shared in his original post with us. However, I felt it necessary to share. So here we go. And remember, this list is condensed because, again, like he said, people have a very short attention span. 5 trips to the emergency room, 35 to 45 doctors and nurses treating him, 6 ambulance workers, so much money in drugs spent to keep him breathing and to mask the pain, 3 weeks in lockdown, 4 weeks of not seeing his kids and counting, 2 weeks of being completely alone and scared of falling asleep and not waking up. 3 weeks of family back east in Ontario here, worried, sick. 3 weeks of his family in BC where he is, worried, sick. 3 weeks of friends, worried, sick. 3 weeks and counting of breathing issues. 3 weeks and counting of no smell or taste. 3 weeks of not working, started back now, but he gets tired quickly. He lost 10 pounds, which he considered not really a bad thing, and he was able to smile when saying that. And he also mentioned brain fog. He says that one day he feels good and thinks the worst is over, and the next day he's back in the hospital. That happened a few times. He also wanted us to keep in mind that, again, the list is condensed because he wanted to keep it short enough for everyone to listen. Richard also stated that you do not know who this will affect and how it will affect them. And that's what's scary about it. You are alone. The words I heard his sister say to him, though, he was never alone. He was only by himself. So in the midst of his family not being with him physically, they were with him. You don't know what another person's going through. And there's a comment that someone posted on my Facebook page after another person shared their experience of losing their 96-year-old mother who was otherwise healthy to COVID. And in it, this person stated that he had family members who had contracted COVID and friends die from it. However, he felt that we were being manipulated into a state of fear, and that the fact is that 99% of the people survive COVID. I chose to delete the comment because I felt it was insensitive to make such a comment when someone else is expressing their grief. I will, however, comment right now. COVID is a worldwide disaster. The population of the world is approximately 7.8 billion people. I did a fact check, and COVID actually has a survival rate of 98%. And while 2% may seem slim, 2% of 7.8 billion is 156 million. That's 156 million people dead in the last 8 months. That is more than the population of several countries. Furthermore, COVID has infected 10% of the world population. That's 780 million people who have contracted and recovered. However, it's also a fact that the long-term effects are unknown. My point is, it's okay to have your own beliefs. However, it is inhumane to disregard any life that has been lost or the precautions that we must take to avoid any more unnecessary deaths. I will close off by quoting the words of Richard in my interview. Be patient, people. Be patient. This too will pass, but desperate times call for desperate measures. I want to thank you all for your support this past year during season 1 of the Senior Living 411 series. And I look forward to seeing everyone for season 2 in 2021. Have a safe and happy holiday season. And please share this post, like this post. It's on my YouTube channel as well, because I know I'm sharing it in the private group right now. I will be posting it into my YouTube channel, so just look up Senior Living 411 series. Let everyone know, because the fact is it's real. And we have to do what we have to do and be patient to stop the spread. Have a good night.